What did I ask you when I came in?
Where the beer was?
No, if you were gonna watch it.
Oh, yeah, right. No, I watched the first part because I never get tired of the first part. You know, I mean, it's the second and third one, yeah. But the first part, I mean, you know, those heavyweights, Sean Penn and Crispin Glover, just pale in comparison to the real kid.
Yeah.
I mean, he was just I never get tired of watching him.
No, he's a total. I mean, he's a magnet.
He's a great performer.
Yeah. Don't you think? Yeah, how did you guys? So, the people who've heard about it, who've seen it here, is it because of how did you guys hear about it? Like online? Did you order a tape from him? Like, ordered a tape? Do you still?
You're the one.
I interviewed. So I did a story about this for This American Life 20 years ago, which is crazy. And so I feel now trapped in the vortex of the Beaver Trilogy.
You feel trapped.
That's what I'm saying. No, I know. So I was watching it this time being like, they're all trapped. Sean Penn's trapped in it. Crispin Glover. All of you guys are trapped in it now. I'm trapped, and you're the most trapped. You and Gary.
Now you are.
So how does it feel?
To be trapped.
Yes. Well, obviously, I mean, are you still trapped, I guess?
Me?
Yeah, from in this.
I so am tired of this film.
Yeah, I know. I hesitate to even start asking you. Let's get out of the way how this happened for the people who don't know. How did Beaver Trilogy happen?
I mean, it's pretty much what you see there. The first time I saw him is the first time you see him. I walked out into a parking lot. I was working for a television station doing documentaries, and I walked out into the parking lot to test out a newfangled thing called a video camera, because the video before that I'd shot everything on film. So I'm just out there fiddling around. So that's when I saw him, and then it was like, God, yes, I'm going to follow this guy for sure.
And you knew right away.
Oh, yes.
When you saw him.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, he's so engaging and so interesting and so off. I mean, I have this thing I call listen to your visitors, because sometimes people will come up to you. It might be a homeless person. It might be somebody you don't know, and they tell you things that you'd never, ever guess about or think about. And I call them my visitors. And I would say about half of them are pretty interesting.
Good ratio.
Yeah.
And then he's the one who kept it going after that parking lot?
Yeah, oh yeah, he kept writing letters, and I mean, I think there's only one in there, but he must have written me 4 or 5 different letters, and so I mean, there was no way I was not going to go down there.
And did he put the talent show on for you?
Yes.
I feel like as you keep watching the movies, you get meaner. You're very mean to yourself in it in your second and third iterations, and the world gets meaner. Because in the first one, how I know we'll get to why you get meaner to yourself, but do you think you made a meaner version of the world than the reality, or the reality was as mean as to him as the second and third depict?
I grew up in a very small town called St. Anthony, Idaho, which is about 2,000 people. And I know that you do not dress up like Olivia Newton-John and get away with it. You know, I knew he was in for all kinds of trouble. And there's another movie out called Beaver Trilogy Part 4, which I did not make, but somebody went and did an examination about this, and they went back to Beaver and interviewed people and interviewed his family. And, you know, when I very first made this, I showed the film to some friends of mine when I showed the first part, and they were laughing and things, but they didn't understand the pathos of this character. You know, I immediately, well, not immediately, but when I got to the mortuary, I realized immediately that there was a lot more depth to this than I'd previously thought. And so that's kind of why I made the second and third parts, because I was trying to get it right so that people wouldn't laugh at the guy, but have empathy with him.
But you make you yourself laugh at him in the movie in a way that I feel like the real you never would have laughed at him.
No, I didn't. No, I adore the guy, or I did. He's dead now.
When did he die?
He died, gosh, it's been a while back. It's been like 10 years maybe, something.
And you,
He was in his 50s when he died. It was a sad death. He was working at a driving truck for pigs to slaughter kind of thing, and he was still living in Beaver. And yeah.
had you seen him between?
Well, when this thing ended up, I shot this thing, the first part in 1979, the second part in 1981, the third part in 1985, and then I never showed it until 2000.
That's around when I saw it.
About, yeah. And the reason I didn't show it is because he had shot himself, really, and I didn't want him to shoot himself again, so I kept hiding the film. But at the same time, it was the best story ever. So I was trapped into this thing where I had this wonderful story but couldn't show it. And that went on until it didn't, but it was in 2000 when it finally, Sundance called me up and said, "We want to show your movie." And I said, "No, I don't want to do that. You're going to show it at midnight, and I can't stay up that late." And they said, "No, we'll give it a good," anyway. So I managed to get a message to the Beaver Kid. It was very, because I hadn't seen him then in, I don't know, 20 years or something, and I contacted some people in Beaver and said, there's going to be tickets for you at the there's the screening, and it was at the Eccles, which is huge. It's like 1,400 seats, and the place is crammed, and he never picked up the tickets, the free tickets. But then afterwards, I'm doing a Q&A like this, and all of a sudden this guy comes down, he goes, "Ha, you probably don't remember me."
After seeing this, after him watching this.
Yeah, I was like, and I started to hyperventilate, and he started to hyperventilate, and I dragged him outside. There was a little side door, and we went out into the snowdrift, and neither one of us could put a sentence together. And all of a sudden, all of these people ran out of the front door and came around to the snowdrift and started taking his picture and asking him for his autograph. He was confused and horrified and befuddled and proud and excited and everything you can imagine all at the same time. It was it was nuts.
And was that the first, he finally, because he starts off really wanting that. So like when you meet him in the parking lot and him calling you to the talent show is him wanting exactly that.
Yeah.
So what happened between him doing that talent show to make him not
want it?
Want it.
Well, I think it comes through in the film. I think there was he felt like he maybe had exposed too much, perhaps. I mean, there's when I write films or work on things, there's usually a key to a character, like something that a key. And the key to this character for me was when he said, "It's okay when it's on television. Everybody will understand when it's on television." I was like, oh, boom. Now, I don't know whether that's really what he was thinking, but that's the key that gave me the way to get into the film. Mm-hmm.
Did it make you also then get permission to tell his story over and over? Did it make you feel like you had permission to tell his story over and over?
No, it just gave me a key to what he was doing, which was he'd set this whole thing up so that he could get on television and legitimize wanting to dress up like Olivia Newton-John.
Yeah. And did it go on?
How many in here have done that? See, most people in here.
But the thing is also, everyone's kind of doing it now. Everything is different now. Like this is, I mean, the idea of going out in a parking lot and seeing someone filming them, everybody would want to be on TV. Everyone wants to be on the internet now. So it's such a different time. It's a different time from when I did a story about this, when there was no social media.
Right.
Like you've captured, it captures so many layers of a time. It's a point where even though I know every shot that's in it, I want to keep your camera to keep going so I can get a little bit more of what that time was, because it just is not like that to discover someone now. Everyone is desperately trying to be discovered in a way that wouldn't let you kind of see their authentic selves the way he did.
Oh, I mean, in that time period, I love it when he introduces his car. I've got my 8-track FM, AM, my handle's Groovin' Gary. If you don't know what a handle is, it's because you have a CB radio.
Not an Instagram handle. Which is
not a what?
Not an Instagram handle. That's also what they call it.
Oh, do they?
Yeah.
Oh.
Did it go on TV that first time?
No. Oh, God, no. I mean, he shot himself literally within a few days after I filmed this. After I filmed the documentary. He didn't die, but he shot himself in there's a so anyway, there was no way. That was why I hid the film for 20 years.
But then you did also go on to make the other.
I
two.
made
So
the others.
I'm not saying.
No, I made the others, but no, I didn't show them.
But you still continue to think about the story.
Oh yeah.
There was no.
Well, and I was trying to work it out. Like I wanted him to be a winner and not a loser. And in the Sean Penn version, it feels like it's too dark. It's too dark. And I thought I better do this again and try and make it not so dark. I wanted him to win at the end.
He does. Was Sean Penn who was Sean Penn at the time when you found him and put him in this movie?
He was he was my friend in L.A. and.
Was he a movie star?
No, he was about to be one. Huge. He was filming Fast Times at Ridgemont High when we were doing this.
But no one knew who he was yet. He was not Sean Penn to the world.
I knew who he was.
Right. Clearly. And how about Crispin Glover? What was the timing of everyone knowing who he was?
God, I don't know. I'm just lucky. I just meet these people. They become my friends, and I make movies with them. It's goofy.
Did you show them the footage? Like, did Sean Penn see the footage, the first one?
Yeah, I showed him I did. I showed him footage, but at the same time, I wanted to be careful about that because I didn't want them to mimic what was going on, but I wanted them to understand what was going on. Mm-hmm. So I did show him some footage. Yeah. It was interesting. This is a little bit of a diversion. Well, a couple of things. One of the things that comes across in Beaver Trilogy Part 4 was something I did. The person who made that movie went back and interviewed the people in Beaver. This is like 30 years later. And talked to his sisters and stuff like that who were really pissed at me. They finally weren't. But anyway, what happened was after we'd filmed this thing, he did call me on the phone and said, will you please not show it? And I said, I hear that almost every time I do a documentary. If I do a documentary about you, you're going to call me tomorrow and say, that one part, don't put it on. So I'm used to it. And I said, don't worry about it. And then I found out that he'd shot himself a day or two later. But in the documentary, his sisters were talking about it. He'd gone into a deep depression. He's manic, he's what he is. He goes up and down and up and down. And he'd gotten up early in the morning and shot himself. And then he put on a clean shirt and went out to the breakfast table and said, Dad, you're probably going to be mad at me because I've done something. I shot myself. That to me, again, is a character tell. It's like so extraordinary. So extraordinary.
And he was like, he was like bleeding, like
yeah,
his shirt, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, he shot himself in the chest with a rifle.
So were you trying by putting the shooting in the other, him shooting himself in the, or not shooting himself in the second and third? Were you trying to work through that?
Well, like I say, I wanted him to, basically, to make a long story short,
and have a happy ending, which the riding off into the sunset.
Yeah, I was hoping so. But yeah, what a weird thing.
Do you think? Well, I mean, the mortician seemed nice to him. In the real mortician.
Yeah, but you look at what she's saying. I was hoping you'd do another number.
Subtext.
Yeah, I was hoping, and she's putting on, and also the thing about close your mouth, Larry. Mm-hmm. She's putting the lipstick on. Close your mouth, the people at first, everyone thought it was going to be a big kind of riot, silly joke, and then as it approached and things started to happen, they started realizing that this was not going to come off like they had hoped it would come off, expected to come off. The people in the band went back and interviewed them later, and they were worried and he was too. He was afraid. But the fact that the music is fascinating because of the lyrics of the song. Please don't keep me waiting. I can't take this kind of pain. Everyone changes. Be my friend. Yeah. I mean, it's like, yeah.
I mean, he's someone who was born into an era. He's ahead of his time, and it probably caused him a lot of pain. Like, you watch this. It's before social media. Even his comedy styling, like how he is. When I first saw this, it was at Lincoln Center. I didn't know anything. There was no social media. My friend took me. You were there. I watched someone interview you up on the stage while I was in the audience in this cycle that we're in. And I didn't know anything, which is why I brought one of my friends and I said, don't look anything up. I still think it's the best way to do it. Yeah. And I just couldn't even process or believe what I was seeing, but it was so exciting. And the minute I saw him, he felt so deeply familiar to me. As soon as I saw him, I felt like I was watching someone who an actor that I'd known my entire life before, but he was a real guy.
Yeah.
And then you see, like, later on, kind of Owen Wilson reminds me of him, and there's like impressions online and all this stuff that he just was kind of doing it all, but in this little town, in a different time.
Right.
And it seems like he wasn't ever able to fully enjoy his...
No, I don't. You know what? I had a screening in Berlin. This has been just prior to COVID. And it was in kind of this underground nightclub, and they had 4 different screens. And so what they did was they played, and you could walk between the screens. They played all 3 of them. They played one on each screen, and then there was a guy from Denmark who'd done his version, and they played that on number 4. And all of the screens would sync up when he started to sing the song. There were people in Berlin dressed like the Beaver Kid. I mean, really.
Yeah.
It's like I have no idea. It becomes some kind of I don't want to say icon, but almost an icon in a strange way.
Well, you feel it with the silhouette when the way the third one starts, when you see the silhouette and you know now we now know what it is, and it feels iconic immediately. Like it's like successfully he becomes an icon. I mean, he's an icon the minute you meet him. But like then it seems like in the third one he's finally given the treatment he deserves, because that he's set up on his own just by being in a parking lot.
Yeah.
But he can't feel it. He doesn't understand how right he has it.
Yeah.
And I feel like you're very good at you seem drawn to characters and people who kind of take the initiative in that way to follow their
My brother said, you make movies about heroic misfits, and it's kind of true. If the other movies I've made are in that vein also.
Are you currently making a movie?
Actually, right now, I just finished another one called Echo People, which is a spin-off of Reuben and Ed, if anybody's seen Reuben and Ed. This is the cat, right?
With Crispin Glover, Reuben and Ed.
Yeah, but he's not in this one. But I finished that one, and then I've been doing a lot of collage films. So I've been taking a lot of old movies and cutting them up into lots of new pieces and sticking them together and creating new films. I'm doing a massive amount of painting. I'm just painting like crazy. You know, I'm not sure I want to make another feature film because quite frankly, it's easier to make a film than it is to get anybody to pay attention to it. I mean, I've made over 100 films, well over 100 films, and this is the only goddamn one anybody wants to see.
How does that feel?
Shitty.
I know. Does it come in waves? How does it feel that they all came out, this theater's so packed?
Yeah, I'm surprised. I thought I'd probably come there be 3 or 4 people.
Yeah. No,
I'm always surprised. I really am honestly surprised that people come.
Good?
No.
No, I didn't. I knew it.
Yeah, of course it does. Yeah.
But it is, there's something, I've seen it so many times, and watching it, there is, like, I did have a different perspective of it this time, that it does change, even though the meditative state of it, the fact that you know what's going to keep happening as you watch the second and the third, and it's interesting what changes and what doesn't change. Like this time I noticed him saying his job was to make it, the stray dogs on the street are because of him.
Oh, right.
Like that it says that he releases more than he catches, and I was
right.
like, there's
Dog
something.
Catcher.
Yeah, but the dogs are from the real one, the stray dogs on the street, right?
Yeah.
The first one has these dogs roaming around, and it's kind of like, it feels like because you got this
Dog.
footage, well, you got this footage from the first one, and you have to be working within the parameters of what you shot. And you kind of aren't allowed, you didn't, like, even to yourself, to go beyond those, even though the world gets kind of more epic and populated. I find that very interesting. I feel like I like thinking of being inside your mind while watching this every time.
Yeah. Well, I like the fact that I like dogs, and I thought it would be cool if he was a dog catcher and he let all the dogs go.
Yeah. But it's definitely connected to the dogs being on the street, don't you think?
No.
Really? Well, then you're not aware of your own subconscious then.
Well, that's for sure.
What did Sean Penn or Crispin Glover think about it when it was done?
Well, I think they both liked the film. You know, I know Sean liked the film, but he didn't want it released, and I know Crispin liked the film, but anyway, those, God.
Yeah, I know.
Oh.
It's the worst.
I mean, movie stars, fuck them. Oh God.
Did you make other docs?
Oh, I made a lot. I really have
Yeah.
made over 100 films.
Right, but
many documentaries. Yeah, documentaries, and then feature films and experimental films. And I like to make films, so I've done it since I was. Gosh, I think the first film I made, I was 17, and I never stopped. I just keep cranking them out.
You're good at making films.
Well, I just enjoy it. You know, I don't believe in that there's such a thing as talent. What I think is that what it is you're compelled. You're compulsive. You're compelled, and you do it over and over and over and over and over because you don't know what else to do, and you've got to do it, and then finally you get kind of good at it, and people say, "Oh, you're so talented." You know, but it's compulsion is what it is, I think.
Well, I mean, again,
Yeah,
clearly.
God.
But this is the only time you did this. You never did it. You never repeated a story.
Well, I did. Yeah, I did.
What else did you repeat?
Well, I mean, this Echo People is an echo of Reuben and Ed.
Oh, right.
But it's not quite the same thing. But I like that movie. It's pretty fun to watch.
And what do you think makes you do that? The echoing of what you've made before?
Well, like I say, it's just compulsive. I don't know what else to do.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, yeah, but
you know, I have this thing where if you keep your life simple, your passions can be complex. So I live in an inexpensive place. I drive an old car. I don't have a wife. I don't have kids. I don't have any debt. So everything goes into fiddling around making things.
Do you have a dog?
Not now. I wish. Yeah.
I
did have a dog, but not now.
So there will be a dog in the future.
Yeah, I wish. I mean, the place I live right now, they don't like dogs.
We got to change that.
I know.
That seems not
really
in line. Do you know what Beaver's like now?
Almost the same.
Really?
Yeah. Last time I went through there, it looks exactly the same.
Really?
Yeah.
I was wondering.
It hadn't changed much at all. Yeah.
Did he keep living there the whole time?
There was one time, after I'd talked to him, he said, I finally did make it into television, Trent. I said, really? He says, yeah, I moved to Las Vegas. I said, really? He says, yeah, and I was a television repairman. But then he ended up back in Beaver towards the end, a place called Minersville, which is basically Beaver. And when he died, there's actually, his gravestone is in Minersville, I think it is. And on the gravestone is his car.
Oh.
Yeah, his car's is engraved on the. And it's, oddly enough, it's like a pilgrimage you can all go there if you want.
Is it engraved by the same person who etched the pictures into the window?
Oh, no, I hope not.
Has the internet changed? What made it the pilgrimage? What did the internet do to this film in terms of people knowing about it?
I don't know. I don't stream it, and I don't know. I really don't know.
And do you still? So you had a thing where you would send people copies of this movie because you couldn't get the rights to put it at
Yeah, well, that was what. Yeah,
like $5, and I have a VHS copy.
yeah. I made VHS copies because I wanted to get it out somehow, and everybody in the world seemed not to want me to get it out for whatever reason. I could never figure out.
But are you still getting those requests
Oh
occasionally?
yeah. I have a website and people buy DVDs.
Still.
Yeah.
I thought, but you don't know you don't know how it has traveled over the years to people still knowing about it.
Well, I tell you, that thing in Berlin was a surprise. It was like, my God. I don't, I mean, I think part of the reason people like, or it's a little bit difficult to get, which makes it, you want to get it.
Mm-hmm.
If you can't see it, then you got to come tonight.
Had people here seen it in the theater before?
Oh, a couple.
But not very many.
Huh.
That's exciting. Yeah, that's how I recommend it.
I was just curious if there's any questions.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, go ahead.
I'm a documentary filmmaker. Every time I make a documentary, I'm worried that I'm the bad guy.
Yeah.
Why everything is interesting. I think it's so refreshing or what made you make that?
Why am I the asshole in the last? Yeah. Well, partly it was a dramatic. It was a thing for a dramatic structure. No, I feel wonderful. Oh, would you shut up?
The asshole thing, though, isn't some of it, though?
God. Yeah. Because of what? No, what happened is I'd left a microphone in his car, and I called him up to get the microphone back, and his mother told me that he was in the hospital. Well, not over the years, for sure. I mean, immediately. I don't know. I was very confused about what to do, how to handle it. I mean, I think I sent him some flowers in the hospital and stuff like that, but I basically pulled back. It was like, I'm not going to show the film. Don't worry about it. Yeah, here I am showing the film, but.
And your character the asshole character says he's going to show the film.
Right.
Like he does what you didn't do. So I do feel like there was.
I'm not really an asshole.
Well, no. when I interviewed you before, it did have some correlation of like just your feelings toward him.
Well, when you were interviewing me, but way back when, you kept trying to get me to tell you who the or who the Beaver Kid really was, and trying to get a name and stuff like that.
Not me.
Oh yeah, and it was, and it was like at that point I was still trying to hide the fact that, yeah, because I didn't want him to shoot himself again, quite frankly.
Yeah, then I became the video.
Yeah, you're the.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
I noticed, documentary, it cuts angles a lot in especially with the
Oh yeah.
computers and stuff. Had you actually shot some of those twice? Like there was a rehearsal that you were filming?
Well, it wasn't really a rehearsal, but a couple of things I did do. I did do more than once. Basically, yeah. I mean, it was odd because when we filmed the talent show, there wasn't anybody in the audience. There was really, so it wasn't like there were a couple of people, but not really. So I did do a couple of things over and over. I think it was just that. There might have.
But when you see Groove and Gary, I mean, there's a part where the camera's shadow is literally.
Right. Well, yeah, I'm up on the stage for sure. I went up on the stage. Well, no, there probably was, but you've got to put into context that the song is cut also. So I'm cutting part of the song out, and that makes it look like there are different camera angles.
footage of the talent show, other performers?
Oh, I'm probably. I mean,
Just cut.
the footage that is ended up in an archive at the University of Utah, which I'm really happy about. And there's the fellow that made Beaver Trilogy Part 4 went back to the archive and pulled out stuff I'd forgotten about, quite frankly. But yeah, yes, sir. Well, it's not this one. No, somebody asked me that. Making, how do you, films are like children. You kind of love them all, but they're all totally flawed, you know? It's like, I don't know what a favorite one would be. I like this one I just finished called Revenge of the Virgins, which is, oh yeah, Dylan saw that. I thought that was pretty good. It's a short film, but it works on so many levels. It's one of the last films I did. It's about sexploitation films of the 60s and 70s, and it's pretty fun. But whatever the last film I made is usually my favorite one. Oh. Well, uh, I let him know that it was there. What had happened is I'd put it together, and it had screened at it screened at where you saw it at the Lincoln Center, and it had screened at a museum in San Francisco. But I figured it was okay to show him there because there's no way he's ever going to see him. So it was still kind of trying to hide the whole thing. And then the guy in San Francisco told the guy at the Lincoln Center, and then it just went. Uh, well, when it showed at Sundance, I figured the cat's out of the bag, and it's in Utah now, and so I better let him know what's going on. Yeah. Yes, and it had to do with hiding the hiding. It had to do with trying to hide. I thought, well, if I'm going to make this one and it's on film and all that stuff, it might get out a little bit more. So I better change the name from Beaver to Oracle. I mean, it was a ridiculously stupid thing to do, but that's what I was thinking. Was trying to hide the fact that it was this kid again. Well, yeah, and I mean, to a certain point, it did. It won some, film festivals and things like that. But again, I would never show it in Utah or anything like that. It was, if it's showing in New York, there's no way he's going to hear about it or anything, particularly if it's called the Orkley Kid. So that was my logic behind it. Not a good idea, but. I basically made their careers. Well, like I say, I made the first film I ever made. I was about 17 and I was just immediately hooked. Actually, you want to hear about it? It's pretty good. It's called Mud. And I went out to the Great Salt Lake. I had an 8mm camera and I filmed the mud and then I brought it back and I painted a basketball white and hung it from the ceiling and spun the basketball and projected the mud on it. I thought, God, this is really good. and so I just kept doing it, basically. I mean, I don't know how to answer it other than it was just like I was hooked immediately, and I immediately made another one, and then I immediately made another one, and I haven't really stopped.
I don't think we have time for any more questions. Is that correct? Okay. Okay,
Oh,
we'll do
there's
one
one.
more, last one.
Oh, great. Well, let's show it here. Get him to show it here. And I love Plan 10. Yeah. The first guy, you mean? Well, I thought he was a wonderful performer and funny and warm. I mean, I really liked watching him do stuff. And then when I showed it to other people, they thought they kind of made fun of him or something. I think, God, no, this guy's really fun to watch. He's great. So it was, I had an empathy with him. It wasn't that I felt, I wasn't making fun of him. I thought he was great.
Other film people, like when you showed him to your friends and stuff, and film people, they made fun of him?
Well, they wasn't necessarily film people, but yeah, they didn't know what to do with it. They didn't know what to do. They'd laugh nervously, and then they'd think that I got a whole bunch of stuff about how exploitive I was. And it was like, God, no, this guy exploited me. He's the one that set this whole thing up.
And also, it's just like capture. It's like it's like forever immortalized. And to have him, like I just feel like it's such a miracle that you out there filming him.
Listen to your visitors. Yeah, I think they're kicking us out now.
Yeah.
Hey, thank you for coming.